Who do you like most in the NFC South? We are here with Good Morning Football. I'm not totally sure who all's on the panel. I see my boy Pete Schrager with the posture king, Pete Schrager over here to my right. Let's go ahead and jump right into the video. Well, actually, before we do, it better be the Saints. It better be the Saints. I think the Saints are far and away the best team in the South. If I had to rank them, it would be Saints, then it would be the Bucs, then it would be the Falcons, then it would be the Panthers.
Yes.
You're not going to be biased. You're just going to give your answer.
Listen, I'm not going to be biased. I'm just going to, of course it's the Bucs.
Legitimately, you think the Bucs?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, go on.
I assume this young man is being biased with his smirk, but the Bucs, I think, are better than advertised. I think the Bucs, some people think they're going to be the worst team in the NFL. I think they're going to be bang average. The biggest question mark for me with the Bucs is Todd Bowles. It's not Baker Mayfield. It would be Kyle Trask, but I think Baker Mayfield is going to be the quarterback. But I don't know if Bowles can do it, right? I don't know if he's a head coach. I don't know if that'll work. As far as the roster, not bad. The roster is not a team that can be that bad. I think at their worst, they're below average. But I don't think they can sink to bad.
Yeah,
make the case.
Yeah, please.
Hey, give me a second.
Yeah.
I don't like your energy.
No, I understand you wore the uniform.
I did. And, I know a lot of people don't believe in Baker Mayfield, but I believe in Baker Mayfield, one, because he's an Oklahoma Sooner. Baker is a natural-born leader. I know Baker has his ups, he has his downs, but now he's wearing a Buccaneer uniform, and I have to believe in Baker Mayfield.
I don't understand how people watch this stuff. I mean, like, how do people... This is a bigger topic for a different day, but it blows my mind in sports media, and I don't want to, I watched 30 seconds of this clip. I don't want to go on a tangent here, but I am going to. In today's day and age, where there's fantasy football, where sports gambling exists, where people are so tuned into the sport and so tuned into football or whatever it is, let's just say sports. It didn't have to be football. People are betting on games. They're betting on player props. They know the players. They know the stats. They know everything. Analytics are available. I don't understand how networks are still putting out products like this, where it's just kind of cliche after cliche after cliche, or no one's really saying anything. Like, if you're going to say the Bucs are going to be good, I'm ready to listen about, okay, where are they good at on the roster? Who's coming back? What are the stats? What are the analytics? What am I looking at here? Like, give me something I can hold on to. I don't want to hear, I played at Oklahoma, he played at Oklahoma, thus he'll be good. Or I played at Tampa, this is Tampa, I like them. It's crazy to me that can exist. There are people that can talk about the Bucs. There are people that can talk about the NFC South. It's out there. If you're a guy who's betting on the Bucs, or you're drafting Buccaneer players for fantasy football, and you've got a lot at stake, is this what you want to listen to? I think we're at a crossroads with sports media. I mean, we are at a hard crossroads. And again, I don't want to chastise Good Morning Football too much here. I have no qualms with that. But this just generally, it blows my mind that we don't have more advanced talk about sports than we do right now.
Feel as being the leader of my team in Tampa, but Baker's going to have to lean heavily on somebody I believe is a very underrated wide receiver in history. I know we talked about this yesterday.
Agree.
I almost brought him up,
sure,
but I said, you know what? I have to be unbiased on this one. Mike Evans, man. He's been a model of consistency, 1,000 yards in every season he's been in the NFL, and they're going back to a time of what I remember. A time where you didn't have Tom Brady, where you have to actually find different ways to try and win instead of saying, hey.
I think Baker is, at this point in his career, I think it's fair to say Baker is a capable quarterback. He's not a franchise quarterback, but coming off of his last couple situations, I could see where he would have a chip on his shoulder. He is a leader. He is a guy who you can bring in, and he is going to try and take control of the locker room or take control of the offense. He's not a guy who's just kind of wafting through plays or wafting through seasons or whatever. Now, physically, he's limited, right? Physically, he can only do so much on the field. It is good that he does have weapons. Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are good receivers. How good are they without Tom Brady at this point? That is yet to be seen. There is enough offensively and defensively, I think, for the Buccaneers to be average. And it's a team who knows how to win. It's a team who has been to the Super Bowl. It's a team who has been to playoff games. They are used to winning. So all of that is a recipe for just to have a high floor. Those those kind of players, that kind of a team, it's hard for them to all of a sudden be a 2-win team, a 3-win team. I don't think they're going to be that bad. That's why I had them at second, because the Falcons and the Panthers are two teams that could be bad. They're two teams that they don't have the roster the Buccaneers have. They don't have the past successes the Buccaneers have. They don't have that. And they have two very, very big variables at the quarterback position. So those teams could sink. I don't think the Buccaneers can.
Hey, we have number 12 on our team. But they got Rashad White at running back. He made a big jump last year as a rookie. They still have Chris Godwin, but Mike Evans is going to play an integral role in this offense, man. They are going to have to lean heavily on Mike. And then on the defensive side of the ball, one of my favorite players, one of my closest friends, actually my youngest son's godfather, Levante David. He just re-signed. He had an opportunity to sign somewhere else. He said, no, I want to finish my career in Tampa. He's been a great leader there. I believe one of the most underrated players, period, since he's...
I can guarantee you this, the Buccaneers will be boring as hell. With Todd Bowles and just how they operate, they were already boring with Tom Brady. I can guarantee you this team is going to be a defensive, boring team to watch.
Been in the NFL. Just go look at his numbers. And, they have a Devin White situation going on down there. It kind of demanded a trade. We don't know what's going to happen, but they got Kalijah Cansey this year.
Yes.
He's in Tampa. The 3 technique, the under tackle has been a huge thing. That's why I had a lot of pressure on me. They brought this guy in this year, the first pick in first round. He's in the mold of Aaron Donald, came from the same school.
Yep.
They brought him in to get that pressure up the middle. Vita Vea is still there, so they're going to have to lean heavily on the vets this year, but I still believe that we will take that division. Y'all might not believe it, but I believe it.
I would never dismiss any team in May, and he's making a strong case. You're saying Bucks already, just write them off?
I'm not writing them off.
You also got to remember how bad the division is. That's another thing, too. The division is bad enough that average or a team like the Buccaneers with veterans and with those kind of pieces in place, they could compete for the division because of just how weak the division is.
But I'm not picking them. I'm not saying they're going to be the...
In your heart of hearts, if you had to make a pick right now, you really think of those 4 teams, the Bucks?
Yes, I believe the Bucks. Now,
stop asking me the same question.
Yeah, I believe the Bucks. I believe the best quarterback in the division is Derek Carr.
Yes.
So for what?
I think there's only 2 options if you're going to answer this question. And I'm kind of surprised they're digging into his answer this much, because it is only one of 2 teams. I think you can only say the Saints or the Bucks. To say that the Panthers or the Falcons are going to win the division, and they may, but to predict that right now, I think is disingenuous. So, I would say the Saints, but if someone said the Bucks, I wouldn't be like, no way, that's crazy, that's ridiculous. If someone said the Panthers, I might be like, come on, that's a huge leap. You're putting a lot of faith in Bryce Young, but I don't think the Bucks as a prediction is that crazy.
It's wide open.
There's no wrong answer.
Yes, agreed.
I went with the Saints and Derek Carr, but to your point, I don't know if they're going to develop. We haven't seen Derek Carr there. I will say this. They could have torn it all down in New Orleans this offseason and said, you know what? A year removed from Sean Payton, a couple years removed from Breeze. This group right here, we didn't even make the playoffs last year. Let's let the veterans walk. Let's start anew. They brought everyone back. And then they were like, no, let's double down. And they bring in Derek Carr. Derek Carr is an adult. I know Derek Carr is an adult in the room, and whether you want to say he's won big games in his career or not, he has put up huge numbers. And I think, like you said, he's the most proven quarterback in this division right now. Whether he's the best, we'll see in 6 months. He's got a chip on his shoulder. I don't think.
I think if I was playing devil's advocate, I would say that the Saints have more question marks than the Bucs. You know, I mean, you're talking about Dennis Allen, who's never finished over 500. Derek Carr, who got benched and replaced last year. Pete Carmichael, who I'm not sure what he even does. Like, there are, you know, you have the Alvin Kamara situation. You have Michael Thomas, who hasn't played in a couple years, who hasn't played meaningful games in a couple years. He's played, 1.5 games in 2 years? But, I mean, there are serious concerns with the Saints, no doubt. You know, Derek Carr could... We're all sitting here saying Derek Carr is going to be good, but Derek Carr could be the guy who got benched and replaced last year. Dennis Allen could be the guy who has never won over 50% of the games in a season. So, as much as I'm saying the Buccaneers are average and the Buccaneers, you know, that stuff, I could listen to the argument that the roster in Tampa Bay is better than the roster in New Orleans. I could certainly listen to that. You know, I'm putting a lot on Derek Carr versus Baker Mayfield, Derek Carr versus Desmond Ridder, or versus Bryce Young. But there are major question marks in New Orleans as well. No doubt about that. So devil's advocate side, the Saints aren't they're just going to waltz to the division title.
I think he liked the way that the Vegas Raiders situation ended. I don't
He
think
deserved better.
He deserved far better based on all the things that he went through in Oakland and in Las Vegas. He goes to New Orleans, and I don't know about Dennis Allen as a head coach. I don't know about, you know, their offensive coordinator, whether they're going to get.
I love when that happens. And I am not faulting Schrager for not knowing Pete Carmichael's name, but I love when you can tell. And I do it sometimes too. You know, because I have no notes or anything here. Obviously, y'all know that. But sometimes I'll be thinking of a player, and I'm like, oh, man, I know his last name, and I'm not totally sure of his first name. And I'll just say his last name, or I'll throw out, like, the coordinator and wherever. So it's funny when you see that happen.
Get all the bells and whistles going. I do know that this division is wide open. Derek Carr has been through so much and still has so much good football to play that he can do the best job he can, and their defense is still loaded with Lattimore and Cam Jordan, and you still got DeMar. You got all these guys that are veterans. The Saints didn't look at this season as like a rebuilding year. They're like, wait a second, let's go win this thing and let's get back in the conversation. And I appreciate that. They didn't just tear it down. They're looking to reload.
Yeah, and I'm giving Gerald a hard time about Tampa Bay, but to your point, this division is wide open. Tampa Bay was the ones who won the division last year. The crazy thing is they won the division with 8 wins, and all 3 other teams had 7 wins. So this is one where we don't know. And May, I'm looking at the Atlanta Falcons and the additions they made. I felt like Arthur Smith, what he was able.
Atlanta's close. Like Atlanta is close, but they're like the opposite of the Bucs, where instead of relying on a bunch of veterans, they're relying on a bunch of young players. They're relying on a bunch of unproven players. It sounds good, right? Like Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, Taylor Heineke, or Desmond Ridder, or whatever. That sounds good, but what does it actually mean? You know, what is it actually going to produce?
To do with their offense last year with Marcus Mariota at quarterback, but finding so many different ways to run the ball with what they had. And now you look at it, and they add a running back like Bijan Robinson in the first round, but then you get a vet like Calais Campbell, Mac Hollins, and I think a sneaky addition is the Jonnu Smith. Jonnu Smith got a huge contract from the New England Patriots as a tight end, and he got that contract because of his play with the Tennessee Titans when Arthur Smith was the guy calling his plays as his offensive coordinator. So I think he can be a really good addition for this team as well. We had Desmond Ridder on the show yesterday, and he talked about being explosive and having these guys around him, a Kyle Pitts, a Drake London, different weapons, those big targets. But you look at Tyler Algier, the late-round draft pick last year who came on the scene and balled over 1,000.
Yeah, he was sweet. I mean, I think Atlanta's building something good. And, you know, I've been kind of critical of Arthur Smith in the past, but at least he has a scheme. You know, at least you can kind of tell that he wants to do something. And that's something that the Saints didn't do last year. They had no philosophy, no scheme. Arthur Smith has a scheme. You know, now that he's got some weapons, the Atlanta could, if it all clicks, Atlanta could be dangerous. You know, it's a lot of what ifs. It's a lot of variables, but they certainly have the young pieces to build something.
Yards, and now you add Bijan Robinson to that. It's now you have a guy like Cordero Patterson, and you're just like, man, we have this weapon that he may not be a starter, but Arthur Smith is going to find different ways to plug him in. And then you had a guy like Jesse Bates in the secondary on the defensive side of the ball with new coordinator Ryan Nielsen coming over from New Orleans. So I think Atlanta has a lot of newness going on. And like Saints with Derek Carr and like Tampa Bay with Baker Mayfield, how fast can the new additions gel with what you have to go out there and put a finished product on the field?
That was good. I know I'm kind of being very, very critical of this show right now, but that was good. I think if you're looking for some kind of a summary of of an off season going into a season, I think that was nice. A lot of they brought this guy in, they have this, here's some stats from this position last year, here's this acquisition and how he fits into the current coaching staff. Like that right there for a concise little 40-second minute preview, that was very nice. I appreciate that.
This division's so open that I even said to our producer last night, I said, all the guys can pick who they want first, and I'll take whoever is left over.
Now, I don't like this. I don't like whenever it's, everyone takes one team. And it's like this fake, it's like a preview of the division without anyone. It's just like, I'll take the Saints, I'll take the Bucks, I'll take the Falcons, and I'll take the Panthers.
I ended up picking the Panthers before that happened, but you could make an argument for anybody, so I'll make the argument for the Panthers. This is a team, by the way, did not win the division, but they had the best division record, which I think some people would be like, really? Yeah, they did. They were 3-0 against the division at home. They won 4 of their last 6. They are a team that did all of that while enduring coaching changes, quarterback changes,
running back changes, getting rid of Christian McCaffrey,
who was sort of the cornerstone of that franchise, getting shipped out of the town mid-season, and yet this team also could have won the division. So if you go, okay, well, let's look at these quarterbacks, and certainly Carr has the most experience, and Bryce Young, we don't know when he's going to get his start. We believe it'll be at some point during the season. We don't know that it'll be week 1. We don't know that it'll be week 8, but he's a rookie, so what do we expect out of him? Well, last year, this team did that with P.J. Walker, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, who's now on the Bucs. So they endured a lot, and I think what this team has been craving is some stability, and you're getting that now with Frank Wright. You're getting that with building these pieces and taking him where you took Bryce Young, number 1 overall. I mean, this is the...
I don't think the Panthers are going to be the worst team in the NFL, but I think they are a step behind the Bucs and a step behind the Falcons as far as a roster goes. I mean, they brought in veterans, Adam Thielen, Miles Sanders, but how productive will they be? We don't know. Bryce Young could have a high ceiling, could have a low floor. Who knows? A lot of variables there. Physically, how he's going to hold up. It's hard. It's hard to sit here and have any kind of true prediction for this team when you have a rookie quarterback like this. I just don't know what to expect from Bryce Young. I personally I wouldn't have taken him first overall, but it is what it is, right? So this is a team where you got to kind of sit and wait. Bryce Young could be a revelation. He could come in, be really, really good, and the Panthers could be a competitive team. Or he could come in, struggle, and the Panthers could be really bad too. So the Panthers are just one of those teams where I feel like they're a year away from figuring out who they are, kind of building that team, that roster. And it kind of makes sense, right? Because they are kind of a year removed from Atlanta. Atlanta kind of went through what Carolina's doing last year. They had Ritter, who ended up playing towards the back end of the year. Now they've fleshed out even more of that roster with some of the additions we talked about in the last segment here. So it's easy to see they're kind of a year away. The Buccaneers are a few years ahead of them, but the Buccaneers are trending down. So next year, I think Atlanta will kind of jump Tampa, and Carolina could also jump Tampa. So that's kind of how I see the rest of the division moving right now.
The guy going forward, but then look at this defense on the Panthers, and you've got Shaq Thompson, Jeremy Chin, Brian Burns, and everyone at this table wants a Brian Burns celebration, which we showed earlier, thanks to Gerald McCoy pointed out earlier. I mean, right? Could we not use some more Spider-Man Brian Burns out there?
Yeah, not Burst Tampa. I'll watch it in the other one though.
But again, the point is you can make a case for anyone, and I think that the Panthers have to look at what they did last season, and there are certainly a lot of pieces they can pick apart and say, hey, here's the reasons why we believe that we have a chance to win this division. I also think their offensive line is underrated. They have a good...
The division is wide open, no doubt about that. And this one's not cut and dry. They're all right there. But again, I would say Saints, Bucks, Falcons, Panthers. Let me know in the comments below what you think. How would you order? How would you order the NFC South going into the season? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.